It's Friday, the 28th of January 2022. Welcome to the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Morning, Michael.
All right, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's get straight into it. Story number 1 today, Sean. The local share market tumbled further yesterday after the US Federal Reserve said it was ready to lift interest rates.
Yes, it's been a crazy few sessions on the market. The S&P ASX 200 officially entered correction territory yesterday. It's now down more than 10% from its August highs. Just like Wall Street, tech stocks have been hit hardest. Both WiseTech Global and Zipco dropped 9% yesterday. Xero was off 7%. There was some serious selling among the big guys. Aristocrat Leisure, Macquarie, CSL, Commonwealth Bank, Transurban, they all sold off. The big miners, with the exception, BHP, Rio and Fortescue Metals, did pretty well. So too did the oil and gas guys. The market ended down 1.8%. It's now trading at 6,838 points. The sell-off came after Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said the world's most powerful central bank would have to hike interest rates faster and higher than anticipated to keep a lid on inflation. Chairman Powell thinks inflation is probably worse than the Fed had forecast. Ouch. The whole point of this, Michael, is when interest rates rise, that hurts earnings of companies. And of course, companies are priced on future earnings. So if there's some doubt over that, share prices tend to fall.
Okay. Story number 2 today, Sean. Premier Investments, which is the owner of a bunch of brands like Just Jeans, Peter Alexander, Smiggle, some really kind of household names. Anyway, Premier is taking on its landlords.
Yes, it said it would exit 4 prime sites in a Sydney CBD shopping centre. Now, in recent years, Premier has really taken a hard line with landlords, refusing to pay rent during the worst of the lockdowns, arcing up over QR codes in stores, pushing to change the way rents are calculated so they reflect sales in stores rather than foot traffic. Now, it says in the mid-city centre in Sydney, foot traffic has tumbled due to Omicron, and it will be pulling some of its stores, it's Peter Alexander, Smiggle, Portmans and Just Jeans stores. Premier is a leader in this sector. Other retailers could follow. That's why this is so important. It will also force landlords, all landlords, to take a look at just how they're charging rents. And with such a large percentage of sales now online, this area is ripe for change for the rest of this year.
It doesn't surprise me, Sean, to hear that Peter Alexander, that they're really focusing so much online because they do fantastic online sales. And if I can give you one very quick tip for online shopping, if you wait long enough, Peter Alexander sell everything for about $19 every couple of months.
Is that right?
Absolute bargains.
Oh, good. I spent $90 for Christmas presents at Peter Alexander. I should have waited.
You are quite the online shopping rookie, it would seem.
Clearly.
On to something a little bit more serious. Story number 3 today, Sean. Woodside has decided to pull out of Myanmar, suspending drilling operations in the Southeast Asian nation. What's going on?
Well, it'll cost the company around $300 million or so, and it follows last year's military coup and deteriorating human rights abuses in the country. Now, Myanmar itself has pretty decent gas reserves, but Woodside's decision highlights the sovereign risk for any company, and particularly miners, who operate in unstable government environments. Australia has a close link to Myanmar at the moment. An Australian advisor to the ousted Aung San Suu Kyi, who ran the country until 12 months ago, is still being detained by the military. A guy called Sean Aylmer, an academic from Macquarie University, had been working in the country before being grabbed by authorities. That was 12 months ago, and Mr. Turnell is still languishing in jail.
Story number 4 today, Sean. We don't talk a lot about shearing and about sheep on this podcast, but the problems caused by Omicron and border closures, all those kinds of things, are now hitting shearing schedules. What's happening?
Well, basically it's about staff shortages. They can't get enough shearers, and sheep are at risk of fly strike or other illnesses from having long wool over the current relatively wet summer. That's according to a story in the Financial Review. The industry is also suffering from not enough transport workers to move sheep around or abattoir staff. Yet another example of the labour crisis in Australia and how it's affecting all parts of the economy.
Yeah, certainly is. Now, Sean, story number 5 today. I don't know whether you would consider this podcast to be a particularly controversial one, but I reckon this story is a pretty divisive one. There's been a decision out of Queensland. It's a ruling by a regulator that's banned a Surfers Paradise woman from smoking on the balcony of her apartment, saying it was a hazard rather than a nuisance. This one will split people.
That's right. And a hazard is the critical word there rather than a nuisance. Obviously a big win for the anti-smokers. Strata bodies have previously tried to ban smoking on apartment balconies, arguing they want to protect other residents, but they've failed. By calling smoking a hazard, the Office of the Commissions for Body, Corporate and Community Management has opened the way for strata bodies to potentially outlaw smoking on balconies. The Real Estate Institute of Queensland and many others argue that people should be able to smoke freely within their own homes. As you say, Michael, very divisive issue.
Yeah, certainly is. And that's it, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Friday, the 28th of January, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't quite enough, then you can always find our longer podcast called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.